It's Mark chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. It says, Jesus entered again into a synagogue, and a man was there whose hand was withered. They were watching him to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. So he said to the man with the withered hand, "Get up and come forward." And he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save a life or to kill?" But they kept silent. And after looking around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored. And here is Jesus walking into a synagogue, which is very common. This was his practice. This was the thing that he did. So whenever they gathered together for worship in the synagogue on the Sabbath, that was his custom. He would go in and he would worship. Look up here. I think that's a great example for us. That when it comes time for worship, we assemble together. We follow the example of Jesus. We come to worship together. I know there's this attitude out there, there's this mindset out there in the world today that says or thinks, well, I can just worship God at home. Or I can just turn on my television set and worship God there. Listen, the Bible's very clear. Jesus gave us the example. We assemble together for worship. Now, that doesn't mean you can't worship at home. It doesn't mean that you can't worship in your car. It doesn't mean you can't worship at the beach or in the mountains or even at work. I do it all the time. But it doesn't mean you do it without doing the assembling together as well. Does that make sense? God says, do it all. Worship me all those places and all those times. And he gives us a great example of that, where Jesus goes into the synagogue and he sees this man. And he has this withered hand. I don't know why his hand is withered. Some disease perhaps, maybe from birth, maybe some accident. I have no idea. But here's a guy that, according to the days and times, the culture of that day and time, he was in need. And people probably looked down on him. People probably frowned at him. People probably didn't think he was much of a person because of his withered hand. And so in love and out of acceptance, Jesus speaks to him. And he heals his withered hand. He restores it back to normal. What a miracle. Right in front of everybody. In public. Not in a closet. Not in the dark. Not out with just him and the man are there, but right in front of the entire synagogue. So everybody can see it. The guy has a withered hand. All of a sudden, it's restored. Normal. New. I don't know about you, but if that happened and I saw that, I'd be going, what is this? I've never seen anything like this before. Whoa! And this is a great example for us. In that the same love, the same acceptance that Jesus offered to this man with the withered hand is the same love, the same acceptance that you and I need to offer to people who are far from God. Listen, we are withered, all of us. In some way, shape, or form, we are all withered people. We have a withered heart, we have a withered mind, we have a withered body. Don't look at each other right now. We have withered souls. Some of you have withered dreams. Some of you have withered hopes. Listen, every single person in the entire world is withered in some way, shape, or form. Do you understand that? So just turn to the person next to you right now and just turn to them and say, "You're withered." Turn to the other person on the other side and tell them, "You're withered." How do you reach these people? How do you reach somebody who is withered in soul, in heart, in mind? The way you do it is by living a 3D life. That's the way you do it. You do it by living a 3D life. And today, we hear a lot about 3D things, don't we? 3D television. I've got a 3D TV. I hate it. Wasn't worth the money. Don't go out and buy a 3D TV. It doesn't even, forget it. Hear about 3D movies, right? How many of you seen a 3D movie? Some of them are all right, some of them not, We've got 3D printing. I think that's pretty cool. 3D printers, that's a cool invention, I think. That would be really, really cool to have, 3D phones. Yeah, cell phones. They have 3D cell phones. They have 3D games, video games. There's 3D art. Did you know that? 3D paintings, 3D posters, all kinds of stuff like that. And God says, I want you to be a 3D Christian. What does that mean? That's what I want to share with you this morning. What it means to be a 3D Christian, so that we can go out there and reach the people who are withered and get them restored with God.